study hall, everyone. Pull up a seat for Art Explored. Ever look at a famous painting and think, yeah, okay, it's nice, but you're kind of wondering what all the fuss is really about?
Happens all the time.
Right. Well, today we're diving headfirst into that exact feeling. We're going to explore the origins, the historical context of some artworks that have, made a splash. Our goal is to give you the inside scoop, but without all the fancy art jargon.
Yeah, think of it less like a lecture, more like uncovering the secret stories.
Exactly. Those aha moments are definitely on the syllabus today.
Absolutely. It's easy to just see the final thing, right? The framed canvas on a gallery wall.
Mm-hmm.
But often, the really compelling part is the journey behind it. The artist's life, the times they lived in, what sparked the idea in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that stuff can totally transform how you see a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it much more engaging.
Yeah, it brings it to life. We're after those quirky, memorable details, the things that'll stick with you. Okay, let's get our art detective hats on then. We're going to start by thinking about the work of a really unique artist, Abe Partridge. Now, our sources don't point to like one single globally famous Partridge piece in the classic sense, but his work is just so evocative. It's a fantastic way to understand how an artist's world and their methods kind of weave together.
Right.
So imagine this, if you will. A painting literally dripping with tar, that's sort of his signature thing, and it shows a preacher wrestling a bear, like full-on grappling.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, what's immediately interesting there is how much that resonates with what we know about Partridge himself. His background as a fundamentalist Baptist preacher. That's a really big part of his story, isn't it?
Huge.
So that struggle, man versus beast, it can easily symbolize his own, internal battles.
Right.
Faith, doubt, maybe grappling with the expectations of that community he was part of.
Yeah, or just struggle in general. It makes you wonder, right? What are the forces we all wrestle with? And how would you even paint that?
That's a great question. And Partridge uses these really potent symbols elsewhere, too.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned he pictures law as a wolf, I think, or a lying tongue rendered in this really
visceral way.
Visceral is the word. So this bear, it could be another one of those symbols.
Could be a challenge, temptation. Maybe just like that nagging anxiety we all get sometimes.
Could be any of those. And it taps into something bigger, too, doesn't it? The whole idea of spiritual trials, of being tested. That story echoes across cultures, through history. This image, preacher versus bear, it feels so raw, primal almost, a new take on that old struggle.
Totally. And then think about how he actually makes his art. This isn't just paint on canvas. He's using tar on plywood, carving into it. It's very physical.
Right, that tactile approach. You can almost feel the physicality of that imagined fight in the texture itself. The thick, dark tar. It's like the material embodies the struggle, the intensity.
So just picture that painting again, the preacher and the bear.
Yeah.
If you knew nothing about Abe Partridge, what would jump out at you? What story starts brewing in your own head just from seeing that clash, those materials?
It's a good exercise.
It is. It's a fun way to start engaging, just letting your own ideas bubble up first.
And it brings up that really important point, how does an artist's life, their experiences, their unique way of making something, how does that feed into the stories we find in the art? In this hypothetical Partridge piece, his background and his tar technique seem so deeply connected to the meanings we can pull out. It just shows art isn't made in like a vacuum.
Definitely not. Okay, now let's switch gears. From our imagined piece to a real Abe Partridge artwork that had a, pretty unexpected moment in the spotlight.
Oh, yeah.
The painting's called The Cowboys, and the origin story involves Hollywood, specifically the sequel to The Shining.
Dr. Sleep.
That's the one. Came out in 2019. Apparently, you got to keep your eyes peeled because this Partridge painting makes a cameo on a character's T-shirt.
No kidding. On a T-shirt. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that throws a contemporary piece right into pop culture like that. You've got this artist, and suddenly his work just pops up in a huge movie.
Right.
We might not know exactly why they chose it, but it makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How art can subtly layer onto a story or a character, even if most people watching have no idea where that image came from.
Like a little visual whisper.
Yeah, exactly. A visual whisper in this big narrative.
It's definitely a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing, I imagine. But it's a great example of how art can just weave itself into life in surprising ways. So here's a challenge for you listening. If you've seen Dr. Sleep, or if you watch it now, look for it. Try and spot the cowboys on that T-shirt.
A little art history scavenger hunt.
In a horror movie. Perfect.
It really highlights that art isn't just for gallery walls, It can show up anywhere, permeate culture.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move to another way. Partridge's art intersects with other creative fields, music. In 2021, he was actually commissioned to do the album cover art for Charlie Parr's album, Last of the Better Days Ahead.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Charlie Parr, yeah. Highly respected folk Americana musician. That really shows that synergy you can get between different art forms, doesn't it?
Totally.
Musicians, visual artists, they often find this shared language. Or something resonates. Parr must have seen something in Partridge's style, his visual storytelling, that just clicked with his music.
Yeah, it speaks to how different kinds of art can sort of feed off each other, amplify each other. And it makes you think, right, how much does that album cover art shape your first impression of the music inside? Does seeing Partridge's raw, textured style make you expect a certain sound? Or maybe hint at the themes in the lyrics?
Oh, definitely. It's that first visual hit. It sets a mood before you've even heard a note. It's like a visual interpretation of what you're about to hear.
Right, the visual introduction. And sticking with music, there's another big name connection, Americana star Tyler Childers.
Oh, yeah, huge artist.
Well, he's apparently a big admirer of Partridge's work, too. So much so that in 2022, Childers commissioned an original Partridge painting. And get this, they made 500 prints of it to go along with Childers' gospel project, Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven?
Wow. That's a really significant endorsement, especially within that music community.
Yeah.
For someone like Tyler Childers, established and acclaimed, to specifically seek out Partridge for a project like a gospel album, which is often deeply personal,
Right.
it says a lot about the impact of Partridge's work, especially perhaps how it connects with those themes of faith, spirituality.
And it brings us right back around, doesn't it, to Partridge's own exploration of religious themes, which, like we said, is so tied to his own life story. It's like this creative conversation happening between music and visual art, centered on these really powerful ideas of belief.
And there's a long history there, right? Between gospel music and visual art. Using images to enhance the spiritual message, make it more immersive. Childers choosing Partridge feels like tapping right into that tradition.
Okay, so for our final sort of deep dive into Partridge's work today, we have to talk about the With Signs Following exhibition.
Ah, yes. This sounds like a major project.
It was huge. It came out of Partridge spending 2 full years immersing himself in Appalachian serpent-handling churches.
Just the premise alone is incredible.
Right. And the exhibition reflected that scale, 67 pieces, mostly these striking acrylic paintings on his signature tar-coated boards.
All right.
But also sculptures, field audio he recorded, even video was multisensory.
Wow.
But the core, really, were 45 painted portraits, and each one came with a handwritten narrative.
A handwritten.
Yeah, either transcribing what the person said or Partridge retelling their story.
That's really powerful. It feels like it crosses the line between art and documentation, almost.
Exactly. It's like contemporary cultural observation. He wasn't just making interesting pictures. He was trying to understand and document this community. A community that, let's be honest, often gets stereotyped or misrepresented.
Badly misrepresented, yeah.
Yeah.
So including their own words or their stories, that adds such a crucial layer of authenticity. It shows real respect.
Definitely. And the title itself, With Signs Following, that's a direct quote from the Bible, Mark 16, about believers handling serpents. So it signals the focus right away.
Sets the context immediately.
And get this, adding another layer. Many paintings had QR codes next to them.
Oh, interesting. Where do they lead?
To his Alabama Astronaut podcast. So you could look at the portrait, read the story, and then literally hear more context or recordings related to it. Incredibly immersive.
That really is multi-layered, going beyond just the visual object.
So what about the symbols in these portraits? Did certain things keep showing up?
Yeah, they did. You see flames quite a bit, often symbolizing the Holy Spirit, Floral patterns sometimes appear, maybe suggesting a divine presence or something beautiful amidst the intensity.
Okay.
And then, of course, the serpents themselves, which are just loaded with meaning, aren't they?
Absolutely. Faith, obviously, but also danger, fear.
Right. And the idea of overcoming that fear through belief,
Yeah.
it's a symbol with so many complex layers. And he really explores that.
And again, that tar technique he uses, you think that plays a role here too?
I absolutely think so. That raw, kind of gritty, earthy quality of the tar and the carved wood, it feels like it mirrors the intensity of the subject, the deep lived-in faith of these communities. It's not polished, it's real, The materials themselves feel like they're part of the story.
It leads to this really interesting idea. You could almost see these portraits as like modern-day icons.
That's a great way to put it. Modern icon.
Yeah, telling these powerful stories of faith, resilience from a really unique cultural viewpoint, one that deserves to be seen with, nuance.
That's crucial. By showing these individuals with dignity, letting their stories come through in both the pictures and the words, he's offering a counter-narrative, moving beyond the caricature, letting you engage with him as real, complex people with deeply held beliefs.
So, okay, as we wrap up our art exploration for today, let's just step back for a second. We've talked about a hypothetical preacher and a bear, a surprise movie cameo, musicians collaborating, a deep dive into documenting a specific community. What are some of the main takeaways for you from all this?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just how connected an artist's own life, their journey, is to the themes and even the methods they use. Partridge's background shaping his symbols, his use of tar reflecting the intensity, it's all interwoven.
Yeah.
And that's where so much meaning comes from.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully we've hit on a few of those aha moments for you listening, those little surprising details. Like, who knew a painting might just show up on a t-shirt in a Stephen King movie sequel?
Right, or the layers of meaning packed into symbols like serpents in those portraits.
And ultimately, I think what this all shows is that you really don't need, like, a PhD in art history to get something fascinating out of this stuff.
Not at all.
Just understanding the stories behind the art, whether it's technically famous or not, it just unlocks so much more appreciation, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Knowing the origin, the context,
Yeah.
it adds whole new dimensions, makes it richer.
So here's a final thought to maybe chew on a bit. Think about how everyday materials, something as basic as roofing tar, can be turned into these incredibly powerful ways of expressing things.
Good point.
And maybe this whole conversation has sparked a bit of curiosity in you. Maybe you'll seek out some art that grabs you and try to dig a little deeper into its story.
Yeah.
You could definitely start by looking up Abe Partridge's work online, see these pieces we've talked about, or even check out his Alabama Astronaut podcast for those deeper dives.
Absolutely worth exploring. There's always more to discover.
There really is a whole universe of stories just waiting right beneath the surface of what we see.